Hey guys, welcome back to Chapter.athletic. Today we have Tim Vincent in with us today. We're really excited. One of the hottest names in Australian distance running at the moment. Tim's with us today. He's made his marathon debut in 2023 on the Gold Coast. Since then, he became the 10th Australian to break the 2 hours 10-minute barrier in the marathon. Tim is many things. He's a Southeast Queensland local, he's an accredited exercise physiologist and also an ASIC-sponsored athlete. We're appreciative to have you here today, Tim. Thanks so much for coming on.
Thanks for having me. And I might even reiterate the local point. The most hilarious thing about all of this is I live probably 10 minutes away and work 2 blocks down the road. So it's worked out pretty well for me.
Yeah. Did we just become best friends?
So when I saw Gurla Road, I was like, sweet, you beauty.
This is great.
Yeah.
Straight on.
It was meant to be.
You guys are.
Yeah, it's funny how small the Brisbane running community is, isn't it? It
Really
always
is.
happens like that.
It really is. It really is. So Tim, outside of running, what sort of things do you get up to wind down or have fun? Bit of an opener. Tell us a bit about you.
I reckon the most, standardised or everyday one I do is probably chess.
Okay.
So I've got chess.com on my phone. People who know me well, like I played in year 9 at school, was never very good, but I find it's something that methodically every day keeps me busy and I just solve chess puzzles. Sometimes I'm like, yeah, I've had a good day today. And then other days it's like I'll be sitting in bed at 10 o'clock trying to do them and just make blunders. And you're like, oh boy, like this is, I've lost my brain cells. But I'd say that's the most reliable thing. And then I've probably got an interest in like Pokemon Go as well, but that's on the back burners at the moment.
You're just prioritising chess, you think?
I'd say so. Not that it's going to go anywhere, but yeah.
Do you play online? You know how Jack from Hamish and Andy has like a secret, not so secret anymore, but he's got like a chess account. So do you play people online or is it?
I go through waves, so that's actually a really good point. So I find I mostly play the chess bots, which is really bad for progression because it's just, you can predict them, they're going to play the same moves. I learn how to beat it and then I just feed my ego by beating the same bot.
There's nothing wrong
so
with
you
that,
don't
yeah.
get better. But I found a perfect level where I probably say I'll lose 50% of the time or I resign early. And then the other 50% of the time I'll win. Online definitely makes you a better player, as I guess running does, like when you're front up for races. But in saying that, it's like sometimes when, there's a lot of time pressure online as well.
Yes.
So, for example, like trying to make critical decisions in like half a second really makes me infuriated when I blunder. Yeah.
So your chess career ahead of Pokemon career at the moment.
At the moment,
Yeah.
I think career is a strong word, but let's leave it there. Yeah.
What are your top 3 Pokemons?
It's a great question. Because
no.
here we
no.
go. So this one's like, and I love this question because it's so personal to everyone. Everyone's like, there's
Is it
no,
personal though?
there's no particular reason why. I do like of the 3 starters, probably a Bulbasaur. I think the first perfect Pokemon I caught on Pokemon Go was a Vaporeon, and then probably I'd say I've only got 2 to be fair.
I like it.
Do you
Gone
have
with
one in mind?
the Leaf starter.
Yeah.
Interesting.
Yeah, I get a lot of hate for that.
Earthy.
Like
No.
Liam Burden at the moment in Tokyo, like we always say every time we go, we just collect another 3 plushies and bring them back. And I think he got Charmander, like the fire starter.
Yeah.
So that's already like us 2 verging off into our own little
Japan Pokemon Go would have to go off.
Yeah.
It's
Surely,
like
compared to Australia.
the density of the game. So in terms of like, if you're like on the map, there's just like probably 10 times more Pokemon and stops. And I guess trying to relate that to someone who doesn't play, it's just imagine just everything everywhere, like just stimulus overload, sensory overload, I'd say.
Is that because it's more set up? I'm just not sure how it works. Like I did play it at the start, but is it relying on people having their devices on, or is it kind of like a geo-tagging thing? Or?
I think a bit of both. And then the game would also, they mine a lot of data, I know, so that have a lot of players in that area, like very dense player base. So then they probably learn to maybe have more stops or Pokemon or things to facilitate how the game runs.
Interesting.
But I do not work for Pokemon Go.
You could get a job after this.
Yeah.
There's a good chance.
Yeah.
Have you ever been tempted to pull out the phone during a marathon and
Yeah.
just seeing if there's anything around?
Not during a race. Like that's a big no-no. But like I actually reckon I went through a year where most of my easy runs I was playing Pokemon Go, like probably 2022.
How to keep your zone 2 in zone 2.
The best bit was like all my PBs, like I was actually running pretty well at the time too, and I'm like, well, this is sweet. I could just play Pokemon Go, level up, and keep running well. But I don't do that as much anymore. It's pretty just not
On
needed.
that gave me an interesting question. Do you actually, when you're racing your marathons, do you carry your phone?
Definitely not. No. So even I don't carry my gels. I'm just like, even if I have gloves on in a cold race and I don't want them, I'll throw them. Like absolutely only the essentials.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No extra way.
And watch, you keep a watch on?
Sometimes I'm going through a phase at the moment where I like having my watch on, but even the settings sometimes, like I'm still on 7K splits, so I don't have auto lap on a K. I've also gone through phases where I don't race with a watch, so I'm enjoying my 7K splits at the moment, which is so rogue, and I don't think anyone else that I know does that.
I don't think I've ever measured anything in 7Ks.
No.
Yeah, so I did that for the marathon in Frankfurt, or actually just starting before that, because I did one session with 7Ks or reps. I've just left it since October.
So that's what, in split into 6, so it just works better for you mentally, or just...
Yeah, I worked that out. I was like, 42 divided by 7 is 6. I'm like, I'll just break everything into 6 sections, and yeah.
That's interesting. Yeah, I never thought of that.
This could be the key for me running sub 3 now.
Because I've had
Pokemon Go. And
Pokemon Go and
splitting it up.
Nightly chess puzzles.
Yeah.
Because I've had friends that put it into miles, because then in their head it's like less. So it kind of sounds similar. I don't
Yes,
know about them.
I can't do miles.
Yeah.
I tried it. I think I could. 5 miles is 8K. Like I've got a few of them down pat, but just in general, I'm like, I don't know.
Yeah, I think it's more of just like mental hack, really.
I think if everyone's got their own way to trick themselves to break it up, I think that's an important must in the marathon. But it's the matter of like how you trick yourself.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So personal.
Tim, is it true that you started running cross country to get a day off school? Is that true?
Yeah, I'd say so, because I really wanted to play like football or soccer growing up. Still probably do, to be honest. So I just run because I like got through school and districts, but the district one definitely, like my first district one, I was like, sweet, won the school one, get a day off, go down. I think it was at Northgate or even just Shore Park down there. I was like, yeah, cool, do sport, soccer train in the evening, don't have to go to school. So I knew I wanted to do something from a young age that involved moving. Struggled to sit still in a classroom. And even now I look back, like I thought it was relatively, or I don't know, normal. But now that I think about it, like I was never really focused at school. I was always thinking about sport or soccer that night or something else.
Yeah. And what prompted the transition into just focusing on running?
Great question. I was about 16, still was like, I'd say playing football in the top league in North Brisbane. So I think training for that involved, I think we were doing Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, and then like a strength and conditioning outside of that, then a game on the weekend. So it was a fair bit for like 15-year-olds at the time. And then I was trying to run around that as well. So a lot of load for 15. I did get injured that year, like in my hip flexors, I think, playing soccer. So I sat out most of the pointy end of the season. And they just kind of made the choice for me. Like I went to try out the next year. And like, to be fair, didn't put the work in now looking back at it. And it's like, didn't get picked for that team. I think the dates even as well. So basically when I didn't get picked, it was too late to then go to try play in that same league across Brisbane. So I went and played with some mates socially. I think it was one night a week and you play a game, and even the one night a week, it's like you don't have to show up. And when you're kicking a ball around, like everyone's unfit on the weekend or relative to what I was used to. So it was pretty fun. And then I had a bit more time to run and I just started enjoying that. And I think when I put more time into running, just started to get better at it. And as selfish as it sounds, I really started to enjoy individual sport and being rewarded for like your work, but then also the other side of it. Like if you don't put in the work or if you have a bad day, it also comes back solely on you.
Yeah.
Own your own destiny instead of being tied to the success of the team.
And I think I really enjoyed that. In saying that, like when I'm done running, I will go back to team sport. Yeah. But I still like that now that you're driving your own ship.
Be a great way to build a bit of self-discipline.
Sure. And I think that we all know that it's massive in running and just consistency, right? Getting out the door every day.
How much load do you think you were getting up to as a teenager? volume-wise?
Oh, great question. Yep. Sorry. In terms of kilometers per week for running,
Yeah.
I should go and look through like my Garmin Connect profile. I think the most I ever hit in year 12 for 1 week was 70K a week.
Yep.
I'd say I probably averaged 40 to 50.
Yep.
And then
That's
at
a
around
lot for a young person.
yeah,
Yep.
it's actually I'd say relative now. It's not like our current juniors are doing very well. But yeah, I probably got to 90 at 18, I think.
Yeah.
Around there.
How did you go making the progression gradually from, obviously the shorter distances, as a teenager to the marathon now? How did that progression go?
I actually really love these questions because they're not talked about enough in athletics. So I was very lucky. COVID, that lockdown time, I actually just decided I was going to try and make that mileage jump from under 20s or under 23s kind of men's to, because it is a massive jump in the sport and there's not a whole lot of funding in the country for it. So it's, plus you're working, uni. So it's a huge jump and you go through a few years with not much coming back and even more going in.
Yeah.
So I saw COVID as that opportunity. We weren't working. I was still at uni, but I think I had to do one subject because I was blocked from going into 4th year for other stuff. So yeah, I just ran. I decided I was going to run twice a day most days and just slept in between. Ran at 11 a.m. and 5 p.m. and slept 10 to 12 hours a day and just focused on mileage and took intensity right out of it.
Yep.
And then once races started coming back on, kind of shifted back into intensity.
11 a.m. in Brisbane.
That was the dream.
You're certified crazy.
Yeah.
No,
Summer.
winter though. Yeah.
Oh, okay.
So it was like this time of year. I think our first lockdown. It was like I'll never forget it because it's so terrible. I'd roll down to the cafe. I have the things on the ground. Remember, like you had to stand a certain amount apart. Maybe only 3 people inside. I'd buy him a coffee. I was going through like chalky milkshakes at the same time. So I'd take a mate. That was and he was local. So it was like your one person.
Yep.
Just do that. Sit in a gutter because you couldn't sit inside. Yep. And just have a chalky milk once a day. And that was it.
That's
Kept us happy.
It's
so simple, hey? And like, I know it's 5 years ago or whatever, but it's like,
God,
wow.
it's not 5 years ago, is it? What?
Yeah, it is actually.
I think
Oh
it
my
is.
God,
It's
yeah.
crazy. You touched on something really interesting, just for my own curiosity. How do you think that could be improved, that big gap between, we were talking about where you just felt like there was this no man's land in between kind of that normal stuff and then going up to the men's, mileage. Do you think there's a solution for that, having been through that?
The first thing I'll touch on, there's a few great points even within that. So the current pathway, I'd say for Australians, is mainly through the NCAA to get assistance. Great pathway to go down. I didn't get any offers, and probably nor should I, to be honest, off my results at the time. So I was therefore pushed down the Australian pathway. It was also difficult, I'd say, for me as opposed to maybe previous years because a lot of the under 23 and university games teams were postponed or cancelled with COVID. Yeah. But that is what I'd refer to as probably the Australian pathway of developing racing skills and I guess racing new runners on a one-off and championship racing. The other thing that would be really cool to see, and this is just me going off the top of my head, is like Europe have a, like we do with Oceania championships and road running, but because they're a lot closer together, they can do under 23s and get people together internationally. So that would be pretty cool as well. Or even if we attended the European champs, but as a guest, or once again, I'm not working in sport logistics, but I think that would be cool, is like more push the under 23s competition, because with the event and the mileage demands to be good at it, you do kind of have to get through to late 20s, 30s to be at that top level for most athletes.
It is really an old man's game relatively, the marathon, isn't it?
Typically. There's plenty of guys out there at the moment that kind of prove that wrong. A lot of the East Africans at the moment are very young in comparative to historical results. So I think we are seeing a shift. But then you could also maybe argue that training loads have been higher from a younger age, and that could also be why we're seeing this younger shift to the marathon. Which is the correct answer? I don't know.
Do you think that's going to end up in people having to retire earlier because the load is starting earlier as well?
Hard to know. Don't know. I've had that thought myself as well. And then there's also the thought of shoes are better, more recovery tools out there, more tech out there than ever before. So hypothetically it could, but then you might also be able to offset it with all this research and
True.
stuff. I think everyone's still learning, and it's just constantly evolving, which is really cool. I know triathlon's the same, cycling's ever evolving. And I think that's actually a really important thing to touch on, is like, just got to stay current with research, nutrition, and just move as things move.
Yeah.
So, Tim, that 2024 Frankfurt Marathon time, breaking the 2 hours, 10 minutes, how was that experience? So, 10th Australian to ever go under sub 10. What was that race like? How did it feel? Was it one of those ones where it was a great result, but it had its challenges? Run us through that.
It kind of just all clicked on the day. Like, to be honest, I had a niggle the week of, so I was actually even like really stressed that it was just going to happen in the race. It was like such a minor niggle that I was kind of feeling 2 weeks before, that was just like a tendon flicking over my knee. But I knew once I started getting that sensation, it's only going to get worse and it doesn't go away. So that was playing on my mind for most of the week. Thankfully, it didn't happen in Frankfurt. The actual experience itself, super awesome and positive, and I think there's a lot to say for how Germany runs marathons, like in terms of like actually looking after the athletes, pace groups and things like that. So it was the first marathon in which I'd had a pace group or opted to go with one. Most of the European ones now, because the standard for Worlds I think is 2:06:30 or something ridiculous, they'll have their second pace group at that pace, and that's anything past that point is kind of deemed like, and I do get it, like it's just not adding to the field of what they're chasing. So me being a few minutes back from that, Frankfurt was a really good race for me because there was a group going at 2:12 with the lead German. I'd run 2:12 at the time, and I honestly that day just wanted to beat that. So it was actually a really funny story. We had a Kenyan pacer who didn't speak German and only spoke English and his local language. The German guy spoke a bit of English and German, and I only spoke English. So the Germans that were trying to be on the bike controlling our pace, because they'd obviously paid this Kenyan guy to pace our group at 2:12. I was feeling really good and trying to G the guys up in the group, because I was like, okay, I know I'm good, but I'm going to need people with me to go the whole way here and really pick up the back end, because I was feeling that good. I knew we were running too slow, but how early is too early to take off, right? Yeah. So I knew this guy was like, okay, it's quick enough to go through 21. And I think we were even 30 seconds too quick, like just on his own pacing. I think it was around 65:30 or something. So 2:11 pace. Germans weren't happy about it. They were trying to get us to slow down. And because this Kenyan guy couldn't speak German, I was in his ear going, good job, let's keep going. Like,
faster.
The poor guy probably like is good mate. I've got him on WhatsApp now, and I hope to cross paths with him again soon, because he did a stellar job for me that day. So what ended up happening was I just kept winding him up, and he ended up pretty much pacing me, and it was the lead German as well, but we started running probably 2:10 pace or even quicker. Like I think I closed the back half in 64:01, and the pacer took me to 32. Wow. And even when he left, so I was telling him, I'm like, let's go, let's lift. Like now we need to go, because it was getting pretty late in the race and he was still there. So I was like, let's just see what he's got. Let's like he's going to finish the thing. And we got to a point where I think he was racing Singapore in 4 weeks, and he turned to me and he's like, I am done now. And I was like, his name was Jackson Ruto, and he did a stellar job for me and was a big reason I was able to do that day. So it was really nice. As he kind of departed the course, I gave him a handshake and a pat on the back. And I think that's the beauty of the marathon, is you're kind of running so slow for so long that it's you kind of can have a handshake and say thanks. And
it's not slow.
It's not.
I'm just going to clarify. It's not slow. Slow is a relative term.
And then
I just wanted to call that out.
Oh, fair play. And then at that point, I really only had, I think it was 8K through the centre of Frankfurt alone, and I was able to do that off adrenaline, and I knew I'd done most of the work.
Yeah.
And it's 20 odd. I was just telling myself 25 minutes, you find a way to survive, and got through and had a massive PB and managed to pick up a few guys at the end. There was about a group of 4 right ahead of me. If I had another K, it would have been nice to get them. But I think they were looking over their shoulder and they just managed to do just enough to hold me off. So lesson for next time is probably just need to push a little harder at the start, but then that can also go one of two ways as well. Yeah.
So is that a big negative split for you?
Yeah, I think that day was like 90 seconds negative split. So I actually probably, in hindsight, like it was amazing run, couldn't have been happier with it. But yeah, I probably should have gone a tiny bit harder. Wouldn't have changed anything, but for the next one, hopefully demonstrate similar shape in training, and then maybe we go righto, it's time to be a bit more aggressive.
Steal another German pacer by
That's,
English.
yeah. Or even it's tricky with the races because you've almost got to know before you go into it what the race's intention are with the pace groups. Because if you can get 25k with even just one other runner, it makes a huge difference.
Yeah, hugely.
Yeah.
That sounds like an incredible race experience, though. I love that story.
Actually, even within that, there was a British guy, George James, who I met. He actually was the first Brit back just recently at the European Marathon Champs.
Yeah.
And my bottle didn't even appear at, I think, 21k. And I didn't panic initially, but I was just like, there was a group of 10. I'm like, okay, surely someone, like one of 10, or even if you all give me a sip each, like, sure, probably no good for my gut, but I'll get by. And I said twice, I was like, okay, like, who's going to give me something, basically? Because I'm usually not too assertive. And I'm like, this is the exact time where I need to put my foot down and ask for something. No one was giving me anything. So second time I was a bit more frustrated. I was like, I'll be here. I'll work for you. I'm feeling good. You just need to keep me here. So give me some nutrition. And he was the bloke who gave me a bit of his bottle. And then I gave it back to him and he didn't want to finish it. So I got through a whole 6k split pretty much off his bottle, and very nice guy, and he's now I think a sub 210 runner as well. And that was a pretty special story for me that day, because you hear those things in the marathon about dropping bottles or bottles not coming out, and they can completely change your day. And it could have been a very different story for me without his kindness.
Yeah, and I think it's a nice thought as well. You know, we talked earlier about this being a solo sport, and it's in those moments that actually people really do come together still. And yes, as much as its ownership is on you, like the running community, we are a team in a way, and like sometimes you do have to, you know, help out your mates and
absolutely.
those you're training with and stuff, and that's a really nice
I was glad someone came through, because I always put extra in my bottles, like whether I decide to have extra, but even for other things like that, it's like even if it's just 50 ml for someone, it'll get them by. And
100%.
I was just happy that he was there for me. So very kind bloke.
Yeah.
So Tim, as an exercise physiologist, how do you juggle your professional work with the demands of training?
It's tough, but my work at Agility just down the road are absolutely awesome. So they're like so flexible around my running schedule, which is I couldn't be more thankful. I typically either get my second run done on my lunch break or after work. I think even previously they've got a treadmill in there, so if it's really bad, I could jump on the treadmill after work. Apart from that, I only work 5 days a fortnight now, so I've been very lucky in that sense, and it lets me, when I'm in a heavy marathon build, do the big session on a day off, and try and just go horizontal and not be on my feet all day.
With the different training philosophies, I'm sure you're quite into the research. Do you have like a philosophy that you stick with, whether it's like a polarized model or sticking more towards a lactate model like the Norwegians? Or
I'm definitely not on a lactate model, but all of that stuff really interests me. I'd say typically my most reliant measurer is a combination between rate of perceived exertion and heart rate. And between both of those things, I feel like it does the job well enough. I'd be interested if the chance ever arose to be guided by lactate to give it a whirl, but happy with what I'm doing at the moment.
What about for recovery? Do you track many things? I think you said before you have a relationship with the watch where sometimes you're on it, sometimes you're off it. Do you track things like that throughout the week?
Not really. So, and I was speaking about this morning to a few of the guys that I ran with. I guess I indirectly do, but it's only when I easy run. So I won't look, like, the question for me is like, I'm already going out the door. Like, that's a regardless. Whatever I do can change depending how I feel. But when I am in it, if I feel terrible, I'll check my heart rate and start going through that kind of process of analysing RPE and heart rate, which I guess is indirectly kind of also like the watch telling you. But I'll more value what I tell myself than what the watch
Yeah.
tells me.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Sure.
Yeah.
Do you track your sleep or anything like that? Or
No, but I should.
Yeah.
So that's one thing that I definitely want to try and get better at is like the 1%ers, and because there's only so much you can train in a day,
Yeah.
and obviously the adaptation occurs in our sleep.
Mm.
So yeah, I think over a big picture, or let's say a few months at a time, I think that would be a pretty cool metric to bring to my training.
Yeah, it'd be really
Yeah.
interesting. But I also think there's a flip side of it. You know, I talk to my friends about it, and we laugh because we're like, oh, if we don't wear our watch to sleep, how will I know how I feel? Which is such a and we joke about it because it's you should gone are the days where we would just wake up and be like, oh, I feel well rested or something. And that's actually a really bad approach to have, because sometimes you can feel really good and you let your watch decide, I feel crap today. And not having that to dictate your session actually might be a really good approach to have. So there's a flip side to it as well. I see benefits to both.
That Garmin relationship, it can be pretty abusive.
Yeah,
It is
it's-
It's toxic.
Mine,
Very toxic.
yeah, is not my friend at the moment. When is it ever?
That's half the battle. You can't let it think it's your friend.
I
Oh,
think
yeah.
even with a few of the things on the watch, like I've turned half the functions off, that even anything where it tells me its opinion, just go
Yeah,
on.
like
Yeah.
predictive stuff.
Yeah, I don't want to know.
I was like, I don't care. I don't actually even believe it's, well, this is probably wrong, but I just don't want that metric. I guess it's the way I've been coached as well with Jacko. We'll always alter sessions if I really need to, but I think there's a lot of value in finding a way to survive a session on those bad days.
Yeah.
It's probably also why I've ended up at the marathon and not, for example, the track, because that probably might be a bit more important to really prioritize speed and those things. Whereas with our sessions, it's like, okay, I'm doing it. I'm going to have to survive, like find a way, find anything to kind of get yourself through this session.
For sure.
So there's definitely a happy medium, because I wouldn't encourage that to Joe Blogs to just go smash yourself every single day.
Yeah.
But there is, I think, a lot of merit in being like, oh boy, I'm in trouble here, and getting through it.
Like on that
Absolutely.
topic, I'm the oldest and slowest of the current group. So I'll advocate for the hobby joggers of the world. So say everyone who's into running, who has the bug, they do want to improve, right? And so a lot of the time we can get caught up on shoes and gear and whatever. But I think I'll ask the question, if you were to tell someone what's the main thing to improve in running, just generally, that applies to me or Darcy or someone who's not even following a program, what do you think the biggest key would be to see improvement over, for me, I'm just turned 40, but until I'm 60 or whatever, like, can I see improvement, and what should I focus on?
Are we, just one quick question on endurance events, like your marathon and your half and your 10K?
Yeah.
Like from 10K up?
Yeah, probably. I mean, I think there's a certain point where we both know that, 5K, you just stop getting faster. So let's just pivot to more endurance events, because you can do that for longer. So.
Mileage, it's a massive factor for the endurance stuff.
Yeah.
I feel like it's got a bit of a negative stigma at the moment, because people use that word zone 2 and run slow to run fast. Call it what you want to call it, but if you put in the work and do your long, slow mileage, I think it's your biggest indicator to performance, and not over a mini period, like not even over 8 to 12 weeks. It's like 2 years, 3 years.
Yeah.
And then on top of that, obviously comes with elevated risk of injury, but can be managed with footwear, sleep, all the 1%ers. Everyone will probably have their own different biomechanical ceiling and things like that, and stress that, might limit the ceiling to kilometers you can run. But yeah, if someone, I've seen it many a time in athletes I coach, if someone can like easy run 60K a week and someone's doing 3 workouts a week, but only running like 30K a week, I'd actually back the person over a year that's just doing 60K of slow volume.
Really? So you don't think sessions overall are that important compared to putting in the work?
I use a cake analogy, and it's like, I see the
cake.
sessions as like
We can
icing a
get that
cake. It's kind of like icing it in a sense.
I
And
like
it's like,
icing.
if you don't have the massive cake, the way I've kind of felt with my own training is like, if I'm lacking the layers on the cake, if I've only got a cake this big and I ice it, it's like, cool, it's still not that grand. Whereas like if you've got layers and layers on your cake and then you ice it, it's like you got your full complete thing.
Yeah.
Yeah, that makes sense.
How do you go with trying to do strength and conditioning throughout the week? Tim's obviously, that's a big part of your gig. What's your philosophy around that, and what do you do for yourself?
Great question. I believe it or not, I'm not great at it, and it's something I want to incorporate more this year. I've probably done Pilates the last 10 years, and I really enjoy that. But I do this year want to change to use a bit of a combination of both resistance training and Pilates. I think there's a conception out there that Pilates isn't particularly hard, and yeah, no boy, it's hard. Even after doing it like 10 years, it still challenges me. Great for running, but yeah, I do want to use the resistance training particularly to like lengthen some of my muscles as well.
If you're interested in yoga, I know a guy who's quite curious in the yoga side.
Darcy is yoga curious.
He's very yoga curious.
I think it's good. I think it's good for you.
Yeah.
Actually, I think Zoe's recently been into Pilates, actually.
No, I actually went to hot Pilates with a friend, and I preferred that because I'm someone who I like violence in my sessions. So
Like the assault bike, do you like that?
Yeah. So Pilates doesn't really just do it for me personally. As much as I know it's hard, it's hard in a different sense, right? Like I don't think one's easier than the other. But I did hot Pilates recently, and that took it up a notch because it's like sweaty and hot, and yeah, made me feel a bit better about it. But still not my thing. Still not my thing.
Zoe needs like blade swishing, and there needs to be like an element of death associated. Otherwise, it's too boring. Apparently,
tough
I need to
mudder.
Yeah.
Yeah, need to sign my life away on a waiver beforehand, and
that will catch up with you at some point.
Random rogue question, not really rogue, but what's your pre-run meal or any favorite carb loads?
Oh, I love pizza. But
Wait. Like early morning pizza or something?
No, that's a
No,
carb load.
Don't judge.
Oh, I mean,
But-
Don't yuck someone's yuck.
I would actually eat pizza in the morning, but it's not a staple.
Yeah. It's hard
But
to
yeah,
find in the
typically
mornings.
like the night before or like a load, I'd love pizza. I just find like if I'm traveling, I won't opt for pizza just because the really oily ones don't sit too well.
Yeah.
So pasta, but I'm always just a bit like, meh, it's pasta. Like I'm not too sold on it. And then pre-run, pretty boring, just like 2 bits of bread with jam.
Yeah, standard.
And then sometimes if I'm like a little bit down or down on carbs and don't have bread, I'll always just like have a gel or try and take something. Even if it's absolute garbage, I'd rather have something than nothing.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
So you don't train fasted? You wouldn't just get out the door and
Definitely
even,
not.
Like even an
Like,
easy run?
I'm even trying to, so this morning, for example, like on my run, like I had no food in the house. I think I managed to rally a banana and a gel, but I was only running 40 minutes and had a big brekkie afterwards. But that's kind of like my take on it is like, I'll go through a system of like foods. And then if it gets pretty desperate, I'd even just eat. I'd rather have an upset gut than train fasted.
Yeah.
That's very interesting because I've often fallen in the trap of being like, it's only an hour. Like for some reason in my mind, I'm like, if it's anything under an hour, I probably don't have to load.
Nah.
So that's interesting.
It's not loading. It's you're fueling your body. You've slept that whole 7-8
true.
hours. Got nothing. Your glycogen stores have been depleted.
Very much so.
Yeah, it's an interesting topic because I've even started to turn my head on the way I look at it is because I had the same opinion and now I look at it in a sense of like you need to constantly be fueling for the adaptation and even for the next day. So it's not for that run that day, it's like for the run in 2 days' time and it's just a continual process and that's I guess how I'm trying to look at it more. Yeah.
I do constantly fuel. It's just probably not at the right time.
Yeah.
In terms of shoes, so with ASICs,
Yep.
run me through your ASICs rotation now. What are you enjoying?
I'd say I'm enjoying my Super Blasts way too much. So I've been
It's
doing
easy to
predominantly, like even today. So today's a great example. I told myself yesterday on my Sunday long run, you're putting your Nova Blasts on tomorrow. And I go out there today and my Nova Blasts were still in the car boot and the Super Blasts were just outside the door.
Of course, yeah. Why
Should be
not?
right, put
Yeah.
on the Super Blasts. So loving them. I also love my Nova Blasts. Obviously, they feel a bit different in terms of like the cushioning. I probably run a bit more naturally in my Nova Blast, I find, because I'm quite forefoot striking. So I do enjoy that aspect of the Nova Blast. I feel a bit like toey, if that makes sense, a bit more natural and kind of coming through my stride. There's a lot of concrete around where I run though, so that's, I guess, more what I'm hinting at in terms of like how I'll distinguish between a Nova Blast run and a Super Blast run. And then training at the moment, I've been in the Sky Paris and enjoying that. Previously, I was in the Sky Plus, so big upgrade there.
Big upgrade.
Yeah, like I almost feel guilty about the upgrade. I'm like, maybe I should keep my Sky Pluses on for a while. But anything over really 6 to 8K, and I once again deem it like recovery, and I want to be pulling up okay, so I'll put the Skies on. And then my choice of race shoe is the Edge. I just try and avoid where I can training in my race shoe, except those big marathon sessions. Once again, I will put the race shoe on.
Is that to preserve the shoes or?
No, I just like it. Once again, it's a
feel.
weird Tim thing where I just like having a feeling of race day where you're putting on something that you don't really wear too much in terms of like the feel of it. So not even necessarily that shoe, because most of the time I will race in a pair of shoes that's done less than 40K or less than 100. But I just like even putting it on and going, oh, I feel fast today.
Absolutely.
What do you perceive as the difference between those two shoes? So the Edge has sort of like that flatter plate configuration and is a little bit less curved, maybe a little bit less aggressive in some ways for some people, and the Sky being a bit more curved and then a bit more aggressive in the top to bottom nature of the plate, a bit more of like a toe spring. What do you feel is the difference between the two?
Yeah, I'd say when I train, or particularly like a lot of the shorter sessions, I've got the Sky on for that exact reason. Like I do want to be kind of 4 foot. And then in the Edge, like naturally in a marathon, like you're going to be mid-foot, even on a bad day, even heel, or, a lot further back. And I feel like the Edge kind of facilitates just the roll through and running economy a bit more than the Sky for me in my running game.
For sure.
I also like with the new Edge, from what I've seen of it, I think that the part of the plate where the toe is a little bit more aggressive. Kind of similar to a few other shoes on the market, but I don't hear people speaking about it too much, like that shape around the toes, and I think it makes a massive difference, or potentially for how I run, because I got pretty stiff ankles, and I find when I'm landing in a pretty flex position or an aggressive carbon plate around the toes, I really like it.
Nice. Bit of free toe spring for you if you don't have that.
I can't imagine it's probably no good for your feet, and that's the other way I look at it. Is like,
Well, what do you think?
once again, not a good.
We've got a resident podiatrist here, so
is it any good for my feet?
You're getting a bit of extra ankle plantar flexion with the toe spring, so just giving you a bit more on the plantar
that's
flexion.
exactly
Yeah,
what
sure.
I thought.
I was going to say the same thing.
I always take my answers.
Yeah, nice. That's how I sort of envision.
This is Darcy's
at least
best
those
life.
Paris shoes.
Just like talking nerdy shoe things with Elise.
I'm glad that you're all here to witness it.
December 25 for Darcy happened today.
Okay, so other than running, you can become good in any sport. This is a magic gift that I'm giving to you right
But
now.
we have to take away Pokemon.
Yeah, take away Pokemon.
Sweet,
That's
Tom.
not a.
Yep.
It's not an Olympic sport.
And chess is not physical enough.
You're
so-
going to the Olympics to do this, whatever it is. What other
Well, then
than
it has to be
running?
That's a
Olympic sport.
problem. Yeah.
Okay, you don't have to go to the Olympics.
Sweet.
Yeah.
Why is it a problem? Because it's not.
It's not the pinnacle of the sport.
Okay. What sport are you going for?
Football or the round ball game.
Okay.
Soccer.
Yeah.
I think that'd be pretty cool.
Yeah.
And even just the whole team aspect of it, and then even how they might play multiple times a week, but you might have like a League Cup or a not that I could ever play at this level, but like hypothesize you're like in the Champions League, like things like that, like where the games are not just 90 minutes. It's like you have a home leg, a second leg, and even like their training facilities, like I just froth them. Like they've got chefs, they've got like it's a whole business building that's just around like play football better. Whatever you need, here's money, do better. And that's I guess the stigma around a lot of that European top football league. I think that'd be pretty cool.
What team do you support then?
I want to know.
I'm a Liverpool fan.
Ah,
They just
okay.
won the league, so I'm quite happy about that.
I've
But
never asked you this. What do you think she would be?
Chelsea,
That's exactly what I thought.
Really?
Yeah.
I like because my mum's Australian. I was never really in the like English football culture.
But
So
what team would it be?
well, it'll be my local, which was Crystal Palace.
Ah, Crystal
Cool.
Palace.
So
I thought is the accent southern? Like,
I'm from South London.
yeah, because I
Yeah.
thought that's why I said Chelsea, but
It's not far
anyway.
off, not far off.
Yeah.
But yeah, so I wasn't like really into football, but it was more like a social thing. So yeah, I was just local. Crystal Palace was nearest big one. So
Nice. Cool. Thank you, Tim, for coming in and spending your valuable time with us, even as a local. We appreciate the big trek down here. It's been awesome to hear you kind of share like insights that normal people don't really get to hear. And I think it's really good to open that up to the running community so that we can kind of get insights into what it's like to be an elite, but also kind of humanize, you know, like behind every elite athlete is someone who loves Pokemon Go and a bunch of stuff. So
but
I think
also
it's,
just highlight our local athletes here. You know, we have such incredible talent around in Brisbane, and it's so exciting to hear from you. So thank you very much.
Thank you very much for your time as well. And if any of your listeners see me down on the Kedron Brook where I spend most of my time, give me a wave. Always happy to turn around and jog with most people as well. So yeah, thanks for your time, and I hope you've had a good listen.
yeah. Thanks, Tim.
Thanks so much for coming in, Tim.
Cheers.